Okay, we've got a old Super C here. It's a tractor. This is a points ignition. It's got a no start condition, so I'm going to go through and do a little diagnosis here. First thing I'm going to do is to check if there's spark. Now, I don't have my spark tester with me, so I'm going to do a real quick, simple, easy way to do it, and that's just to take a plug wire off and hold it against the metal and crank it over. See if we've got spark. So there's my spark plug wire, and we don't want to have it touching the metal. We want to have it just close to it so it can arc to it, and we'll be able to see if it is sparking. And we've got no spark there. Okay, so the next thing then I'm going to check is with my voltmeter. I'm going to check to see if I've got good DC voltage at my coil. So I'm just going to ground to good engine ground, and then I'm going to try to check the positive side of the coil, and we've got about 6 volts there. And this is the reason this is showing like this is a negative or positive ground 6-volt tractor. So if I go with positive on the ground, there we can see we got about 5.5 volts. The battery's a little bit low on here, but still should be enough to fire the coil. Okay, so then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ground the coil out. And again, remember, positive ground. So, and if we had the lead switched around, we would just have a negative voltage. Make sure I've got a good ground here, and I do. So now I'm going to go on the negative side of the coil and see what I've got. So I've got 1/4 volt there. If the points are open right now, I should have 6 volts. If the points are closed, I should have 0 volts. So that's a little bit of a hint to me that we probably have an issue with our points since we have 1/4 volt there. But I'm going to crank it over, and what I should see is when the points close, I should go down to 0 volts, and the points open, I should have 6 volts on the negative side of the coil. Okay, I'm going to crank it over again. Okay, and we see we don't really have any fluctuation there, which tells me that the points are stuck closed probably, or there's something that's shorted closed on that circuit. Okay, now with the coil, or the distributor cap rather, removed, we can see the inside of the distributor. So we've got our rotor right here. We can pull the rotor off, and that looks okay. There's a little light pitting on it, which is normal. And then we've got this little shield that'll come out, and we can see our points underneath there now. Okay, and what we're looking for, and okay, so we can see our points in here. Right here are our contacts that should be opening and closing as this cam in here rotates around on the distributor. So when it opens, that shuts the coil off and fires the spark. When it closes, that charges the coil. So we have to have it opening and closing. And since we had only 1/4 volt there, and it never went to 6 volts, that tells me it's probably staying closed. So I'm going to crank it again. And we can see that never opened up at all. Okay, so chances are what the problem is, I'm going to turn the fan here and rotate the engine. So there's a little rub block here that has to ride on that cam and open up the points. Okay, and that's worn down. Probably should have a set of points put in it, but we can actually make a points adjustment on this to get it at least to run. So normally, I don't have the specs off the top of my head on this tractor, but around 20 thousandths is usually a pretty close gap. So what we can do is we can loosen, there's a couple of set screws on the bottom of this points assembly, and we can loosen those and rotate it so that at this point we get at least 20 thousandths of a gap on our breaker points. Here you can see where you need to make the points adjustment with your feeler gauge. and you loosen that screw and slide that contact in or out in order to make your adjustment. Did a little video here. I just showed now with the breaker points adjusted correctly. Now you can see that they are opening. As you rotate it, it opens and closes those points, whereas before they would just stay shut. And once with it all put back together, now when we crank it over, we can check to see that we have spark. And we can see that it is sparking.